I welcome the opportunity to speak on this motion here this evening. Rates have been a very vexed issue for local authorities and local businesses for many, many years now. I think we all accept the system is essentially broken and needs urgent reform, Minister. Indeed, I have been working for some time now to have Tipperary County Council urgently reconsider its operational approach to delivery of the N24 Davos Street road improvement contract in Tipperary town, and many other towns like that where work has to take place, and we need the work taking place on the one hand, badly needed infrastructure, but we must have some consideration given in drawing up of the contract and simple, bypasses, temporary bypasses that could be introduced. If we stood behind the counters of the businesses and understood from their perspective how hard it is to keep the to keep the doors open, and little or no consideration to be given for that. Given the scale of the adverse impact I'm talking about Tipperary town in terms of the financial viability of local commercial premises, I also requested that the local authority apply an immediate reduction in chargeable commercial rates, temporary, once off. It is a matter of deep regret to me that the Council have now confirmed that they intend to refuse this request. And it just is a really slap in the teeth for the hard-pressed, ratepayers. As part, and I'm talking about ratepayers who want to pay and have a good record of paying and always want to pay, not the fly-by-nights that don't want to pay for anything. I want to salute the business people. As part of its reply, the Council has noted that they are disappointed to hear that the businesses are being affected so badly, as the contractors carrying out the works are making every effort to reduce the impact on the businesses as they carry out the works throughout the town. I'm sure that, like me, you will find the Council's use of the word disappointed very revealing. Disappointment is no good. They are the people in charge, and they should have consulted and engaged and kind of tried to work with the ratepayers. After all, they're their customers. If there was a business person treating their customers like that, they'd be out of business. But they have no connectivity. It's very, very poor. It betrays an extraordinary level of detachment from the commercial reality, from what the commercial reality in the town has been like since the commencement of the works, which nearly several months ago now, and going to continue. And if they go the whole way to Full Street, it'll go on for 2 years. On a related matter, Minister, at the start of the year I called on Minister Murphy to clarify why his department has failed to conduct a review of the economic impact of local authority rates on small and medium-sized businesses. This was after the Minister confirmed the absence of a review to me, despite acknowledging that the annual rate of valuation, ARV, increased each year from 2016 to 2018. We know now that apart from 2015-2017, local authorities collected over $4 billion in rates nationally, with $1.34 billion of that coming in during 2017 alone. It's a huge take. The latest available figures for Tipperary are from 2016, which showed that while 34.1 million in commercial rates were due to be collected, only 26.4 million was actually collected, leaving the area arrears of 7.7 million. And we know why, because the business is so dismal and so poor. This should clearly demonstrate that businesses are struggling to pay existing levels of commercial rates, never mind having to deal with the year-on-year increases such as those confirmed by the Minister today. It is vitally important that businesses and small SMEs are supported, especially in light of the challenges that Brexit is inevitably going to have on those. That is why I welcome many of the measures in the bill. And I would like the Minister to clarify the issues of rates calculation around service station areas. This was a huge issue here, and the Minister is nodding and looking at the officials, so I hope you'll be able to clarify it. As I have a wonderful young businessman and his family, Nolan O'Donnell in Care, Woodwood Service Station. It was a huge expansion and given huge employment and huge service to the public. And his increase this year, because he's selling petrol in the forecourt, has gone from experiencing 5,000 to 21,000. 4 times the jump. Just couldn't be accounted for, couldn't be envisaged in his borrowings and his investment in such a huge project there. And many others have understanding a long-standing business premises in Care, motor factors and service station, and they just can't sustain this because there's a high volume of the sales of petrol are very, very high cost and very little turnover, petrol and diesel. So something needs to be done here because for this was an impact analysis of how this came about and how this is going to the impact on forecourts and areas like that. We can't have just issues like that, and I want the Minister to give me a reply on that. What does the bill propose? I said among the measures included in the bill are provisions to allow local authorities to restate a charge rate to be levied on each relevant property of which the current occupier or owner of the property will be liable. And that's very important, because people do change and want to change, and indeed we want to rejuvenate our towns. And if the rates are going to be so high and so punitive, we're not going to get rejuvenation in our towns. We're not going to get living towns back again. And I know you have a scheme in called the Living Town, I'm sure that's the right word of it, Living Town Centres. It's very slow, the uptake, because first of all it's not marketed, and second of all I had a few planning applications, or not planning as such, section people applied for, and the response from Tipperary Council was totally lethargic and inept, and so slow in giving them, and then every reason in the world to deny them the access to that scheme, and such a delay where meaningful projects were put forward for disused public premises, some of them pubs, some of them shops, and it should be simplified. If they're closed for a certain period of time, they should be able to get the break, because it'll do two things. It will boost the living environment of the town, bring footfall back into the towns, but it also will deal with the housing crisis, Minister, of which you're a junior minister at that department, by giving those premises to units, whether they be apartments or whatever, or living over the shop. So these schemes must be brought together, and they must be made more tangible and more meaningful, and more effort put into them to encourage people to move back into the town centres, and to get rid of these blights of our landside, of disused buildings. They must form a basis for greater enforcement powers by local authorities in the rate collection of rates, through the appointment of authorised officers with necessary powers to carry out certain duties under the Act. I have worries about that, and because we don't want to have too much powers either. Because people, the vast majority that I know of, don't mind paying the rates. We paid them. My late father paid them when there were rates on farms, and they were always paid. With a sweep of a pen then for election gimmick party, which I was a giant at the time, just wiped them away, and we've never recovered. Never recovered. I celebrated at the time, yes, but it's foolish. Professor Madden, don't know anything at the time. Well, this is the first of our so-called messiahs that come along and left us in the mist that we're in here now. We don't know where he is now, but I hope he's alive and kicking. But I'm just saying that 40 years later, yes. I repented long ago, because we don't have the money to spend. But no, Minister, you need to be serious. So what? You want to pull back on farmers? Farmers always paid their way, and I'm just saying it was a folly at the time, and the car tax as well. So we need to have a reasonable look and adjustment, and support the ratepayers that are paying. And at the moment, Minister, I want clarity on you. What's going to happen with retailers where they have the forecourts for several stations, the filling stations? That huge jump this year can't be sustained.
Right.